Keith, what's yours?
Me? Oh, I haven't played in a while, but my last was 3,000.
I like it.
All right.
I started recording, by the way.
Okay,
All
Connor,
right,
give us
so
a speech.
from what I've talked with JT about, he says that he's done the most work with you guys in B team over 18. So that means that while we go over this, I'm gonna hold you guys to high standards, higher than A team, because 18 hasn't gotten as much talks as you guys have apparently. Okay. So if I seem to be strict, it's only because I understand that you guys have more experience in competitive or experience with having a coach. So, and also comms as well. From what I understand, I'm not entirely sure. You can deny or confirm it. JT has told me that, son, you're like a macro caller on the team. And
target
sort of, yeah. And then Wrath is more like the game maker player guy.
Shot caller.
There you go. So, since you guys have that dynamic, we're trying to actually build something like that into A team right now. But since you guys already have that dynamic, a lot of my criticisms are going to be based around that dynamic that you two have. So, you expect to be called out if there's some sort of communication issue that happens inside of this VOD while we're watching.
Oh, it sucks that I'm not in it.
Thank God I'm not in it.
Tanks and healers, y'all are gonna get ripped. Everyone's gonna get ripped. DPS, you guys are lucky. Toasty and HGK, you guys are so lucky because I didn't get to watch your first-person perspectives. So I don't have a ton to talk about with you guys, but I have some things occasionally.
That's a big oof.
Specifically with Toasty or Genji, I have some stuff to talk about.
Okay.
Because I think you did actually really well with your Genji.
Well said.
And then on top of all this, I wanted to just briefly talk about TESPA. I'm not sure how you guys or how well you guys are aware of it, but whenever we go into actual TESPA matches, there's going to be no balance at all. So you guys can go against a team that's 1,000 SR high. By the way, I could see all of those guys. Really distracting.
The mood.
You could see 1,000, or you could play against people that are average 1,000 SR higher than you. So what you need to do in order to bridge that gap is just play together as a team better than they can. Because in raw DM, if you ever learn and work depending on that, you're not going to win in those kinds of matches. So I'm going to focus a lot on building that teamwork so you guys can, just excel above and beyond some of these 3,500 people. And then finally, I want to talk about coaching. And this is something that I've talked about with the A team. Whenever you're in esports, typically in tournaments as well, every single tournament that I've ever been to, coaching mid game is banned. So you can't expect Keith or whoever's not playing, who's your coach, to come in and give you tips mid game. It's all on you guys. So whenever you get in game, whatever you take with you into that game is what you're gonna have to use at your disposal during that game. So what I would recommend is every single thing that I tell you today, start making a habit of using it in your games so that you don't have to have me remind you about these things, and you can actually incorporate it into your games. Okay, and with that, I think we're gonna start.
I actually have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Comment, what position do you play in the A team?
I'm not on the A team, but I've been playing flex for them.
Okay,
right now.
And then who's the hit scan DPS here?
Out of everyone in this.
Yeah, who plays mostly hit scan?
Toasty and HCK.
Yeah, it's going evenly split.
Yeah.
Even split? Okay, because I was a Globe Master Elite in Counter-Strike. I know how McCree and Soldier and in Overwatch, so I can coach the DPS hit scan. I know the training, I know what to do for that.
Okay,
But
good.
yeah, that's about it. I can coach the DPS because that's mainly what I played, and I can coach hit scan very exceptionally well. I spent hours doing hit scan
Yeah.
for Counter Strike. That shit was insane. But
And unfortunately,
also
we're not going to get a first-person perspective on some of this stuff. So, you know, it kind of sucks that it turned out that way. But there are going to be a lot of things I'm going to be able to talk about, regardless.
Should we like record our first person perspectives for you then, or
I would say if you're having someone record, spend some time on each player, like a good chunk of time on each player, because it shows how they react to death, how do they get back. It just allows people to focus rather than going from player to player to player in first person cam. It's just much better to see all of the thoughts that are kind of going through their head at once. So when I stream our 18 games, I go from player to player to player, but I give each one typically like 20 minutes on the camera or something like that. So I could actually give a good assessment overall about how they've been playing. Are they overextending? Other important things like that, which it's hard for me to give when I have a top down.
okay?
All right, let's go straight into it, okay?
oh, and I also don't know the meta right now. I haven't played in a while,
That's all right.
so
Break.
that's
Brig's really good. We're going to talk a little bit about Brig because she comes up. This other team that you guys played against, they really like 3 support. And you guys didn't run 3 support, I don't think once, which is interesting. So we'll talk about that when it comes around.
Is Farah still a bitch?
Yep.
Awesome. Which is what training hit scan is. It's literally in this game, training hit scan is just who can kill Farah the best.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to Lucio or Zen?
Can you guys see okay?
Lucio for
Yes.
this
Yeah.
one. Reinhardt, sorry.
Do you guys want to hear your own comms?
Go ahead.
I think we should.
It feels weird.
I think we should.
Yeah.
I'm not
Some-
hitting her,
some
so I'm
back,
fine with
so,
it.
Yeah.
Oh, what
You'll be main heals.
So Moira?
Moira or Ana.
Moira's.
And
Moira
preferably like a Pharah here, because
Okay.
a little bit more open. And then it can't wait. That only depends. Can you play Ana?
Wait, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, go ahead and play Ana.
Okay.
Because we're gonna have a Pharah here.
Still kind of wish my FPS was a bit
So-
higher.
What do you want me to play?
All right.
So the only thing I'd say about what I just heard is the fact that everybody, if you have a specific role you play, you should know how to play every character in that role. And I know it got expanded, the defense and all that is no longer a thing, but still try to subcategorize that, and you should be able to play everybody efficiently and not have to be asked if you can play it. That's the only commentary I would put on that, and I think that makes everybody a better player because then you know the other supports if you're a support player.
Mm-hmm. With a team to depend on, it actually you're allowed to even focus even more because you can relegate certain supports to one person, certain DPS to another, and so they always say jack of all trades, master of none, right? You want to be able to master a certain selection of characters because ultimately those are going to be the ones that are tested in game, and you're not going to say if HTK is a Pharah main and Toasty is a McCree main, you're never going to see in game them playing the opposite characters. Does that make sense?
But yes, but then also having at least a proficiency enough and having a decent amount of hours lets you know how the other character plays as well.
Sure, but in my opinion, it's much more important to maximize your game knowledge of the character that you have, because I don't think we have the hours to spend learning every single character and every single situation. Anyways, the important thing I wanted to bring up about the beginning of this is that I know you guys are working with Cruz because he's not typically on the team. But let's talk about the team composition here. We have Ryan Zarya, very good close range, hammer down kind of comp. Both of their ults are extremely good, and they should be used not together ever. The tank ults in this game are by far some of the best ults in the game, and essential basically for every single fight. So if you're gonna have Ryan Zarya, make sure that you never have Grav and Hammer Down in the same fight, never, because you won't have anything for the next fight. So that's why Rein Zarya is really good, is because both of their ults are so powerful. We have a Lucio, I'm presuming just because it's King of the Hill, and an Ana. An issue that I have with this Ana pick here, I know healers are really popular in the meta right now, but we don't really have a good target for the Ana. Pharah's not a really good target for Ana, and McCree is not a really good target for Ana either.
You mean to Nano, right?
Yes, to Nano,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
Pharah, her ult already does so much damage, and you can actually already get through, you could already out-damage Zenyatta ult with it, so there's actually no point in giving her extra damage. And the extra damage resistance, whenever Pharah's ulting, she's basically a big target, just kind of standing still. So if Pharah's ulting in the sky, everyone's gonna shoot her regardless, and her ult's gonna drop, regardless of whether or not she's ulted by Ana. McCree, on the other hand, he's a fine pick with Ana ult. It's just I would like to see a little bit more synergy, because I do agree with this Pharah ult, or with this Pharah pick on this map. I think Pharah's really good, and high ground is super important. As you can see, you guys are playing on bridge. High ground's really, really important on this map. But again, make sure that the picks together work as a cohesive whole rather than individuals. So let's continue on here.
We'll rotate when they start getting on point.
I really do like that you guys are playing on bridge here.
Alright, drop.
So what happens right here is the other team goes around up top. Oh my god, there's a little bit of screen tearing here. The other team goes around this way, and you guys go and drop off high ground to face them head on. And what that does is that basically gets rid of your entire high ground advantage against the other team. And you end up in a situation where it's literally 1-to-1 even grounds. And you never want a situation like that when you're playing Overwatch. You always want to have a leg up on the opposing team. And what happens here is you basically get a fair fight, essentially, in all uses of that term. And you're going to see that
Speed boosting?
it basically goes as even as possible
I'm
here.
slept. I'm purple, bubble.
And if one of you guys had, for example, if one of you guys had stayed on high ground to continue lobbing down damage, you wouldn't have had to worry about taking damage because the other team's inside their bottlenecked. Another idea would be an Ana going over up top, over to this area of the bridge, and getting a really big nano on the team, having the Rein capitalize on that. Just playing around that high ground advantage that you guys that you guys had originally, instead of giving it up so quickly, just to fight them on point, because the point does take time to cap, and even if they do cap it, it gets swapped really fast once they get wiped.
I gave you a bubble.
I really do like here, though, is that the whole team kind of waits for the Reinhardt before speed boosting back, and you play kind of together,
Lucio,
hesitant.
Lucio,
Reinhardt.
back again.
This is a good Feral right here, and Lucio speed boost as soon as everyone gets together.
Sorry.
Very good team play right there, and that's the whole reason why you guys were able to wipe the entire team right
I
there.
have Shatter available.
So very good right there.
Reset the bridge.
You heard Wrath say he has Shatter available and High Noon for the next fight.
And we have a lot of ults coming on then.
This is
So
really
High
good
Noon
macro
and Shatter.
play. So whenever you end a fight, first thing you guys should be looking at is, where do I need to go now? What are our plans for the next fight? The typical like rhythm of an Overwatch game is make a plan, execute the plan, make the calls. Pharah, Lucio. Make the calls that you need to do, win the fight, make another plan, and continue. And it basically repeats. It's very simple, but if you break that, you're gonna see that it's really hard to get a cohesive attack or defense together. And there are moments in
Bubble
this
me
scrim
once
when
I
you
start
guys
taking
don't
damage, or I
do
get
that.
in, like purple on me, because purple cleanses, and I can be healed once I have that purple off of me.
Again, they're going on the other side, so it's important for you guys to maintain this high ground advantage. But again, you drop down just to fight them head on.
Nano,
Thankfully, that anti-heal was able to get the Rein low.
Lucio's on point, I'm stunned.
Hanzo.
And this is just raw outplay. Both teams basically came into that fight with exactly the same thing. They had Nano Boost, they had Hammer Down, and it was an exactly even fight. You guys just got the better of it. Another day, on maybe a different team comp or whatever, it would have gone another way easily. I can see it happening. So what you want to do is enable the situation where they don't have a chance of winning here. You know what I'm saying? Play that slowly, have the Rhine flank behind, go for a big fatty hammer down or something like that. Use that advantage that you guys have again on defense. Don't let them come in for free.
Really good shit. Back bridge here.
Again, I mean, there's not really much to talk about on this map because you guys destroyed them. and I think it really just comes down to you guys just DM'd way better on this map. But again, if you rely too heavily on DM, whenever you get into an actual game where the team is 3,600 average or even higher,
Beating.
you're going to be losing every single one and you're going to be wondering why.
Anna.
Reinhardt real low.
Good calls right here. The Reinhardt should be focused right there because he got called out and charged in too far.
Do I need some healing?
Hey,
Oh, that
C9.
Oh, nice.
If they didn't C9 right there, they probably would have ended up winning that fight just from the sheer DM problem there. So if a team is holding up here, typically you want to go high ground. If they have too much choke damage, you want to be doing probably what they're doing, but be aware that whenever people are up here, this is like a major priority zone. You can't let people get free damage from up here. So when recapping, it can be pretty hard. But yeah, very well played for that map specifically. And you'll see there's actually a really interesting.
This.
Oh, actually, I was thinking about the next one.
Probably keep this and work with this.
But I do want to talk about the Genji a little bit on this map. The Toasty
So
does.
check the point here. We have a speed boost, so we should be good.
So right here we have, I think, a little bit more of a cohesive comp in order. We have Rein Zarya. We have a Soldier 76 for the long sidelines, especially on the right side of the map. We have a Genji to combo with Ana boost, as well as a Soldier. Either one could be very good Nano boost. Typically, you want the Genji nowadays in this meta. And we have a Lucio for sound barrier and for delaying point and basically just overall utility. So very, very good comp right here. And I think it's important every single time you go into a game, think about the comp, think about what it is you want to accomplish together as a team. The first thing you guys do is push up to the choke. This is super standard. It's exactly what you expect of a high quality team. And you guys played very, very well. Specifically, Reinhardt right here. You can see Wrath charging from right here to right here. Keep the charge as small distance as possible so you can't be punished too hard with it. And it's important for Zarya as well to make sure the tanks, when you're holding right here, are bubbled as much as possible. As long as there's not a lot of backline damage like a Doomfist or something like that. If you keep bubbling the tank, it basically becomes an unpenetrable wall for the opposing team, and you're going to see that it is essentially an unpenetrable wall that they can't push past, even with a Brigitte. Because technically, on paper, their comp is better one-on-one, but you guys have that high ground advantage. They have to approach. They have to use their shield to approach. So you guys end up getting shield advantage and all of that. It all kind of compounds to a big advantage. So even though technically they have a better front line, if you guys keep putting that pressure on, see right now he's taking all that free shield damage. He's all of a sudden a lot more pressured.
Soldier outside. Ooh, I got pinned.
Fat anti right there. The anti is and I really love Wrath swinging there. The collapse there was so crucial to get those kills, because if they didn't collapse, what would have happened is Brigitte would have healed all those people back up, and they wouldn't have gone down at all, and it would have just been a complete wipe on your side.
We have Visor.
Now, what I would like to hear from your comms right here is the Reinhardt has been swinging a lot. The Zarya has been high charge. The Soldier hasn't used his ult once this game. The Zenyatta hasn't used his ult once. I mean, these are all things that you guys should be considering, because these are just as important as y'all's ults as well. So make sure you keep in mind not only your own ult charge, but your opponents as well.
Gonna have Shatter too.
Okay, so what happened is you guys call your ults, which is really good. You guys call that you have a nano boost as well as a Soldier 76 nano or visor. But you guys don't really say how you're going to use it. And so it's left in an ambivalent kind of way where that's not really clear, or an ambiguous state that's not really clear. And as a result, your soldier's in a place that's really not beneficial to someone who has a visor, because what's going to end up happening is he can get nano visored and then just be shooting into a wall. What you would typically want for a nanovisor is to peak more aggressive angles. Get that pressure on, because all of a sudden when you're peeking over here with a nanovisor, their entire team gets disjointed and they have to focus on him. And when they're focused on him, you can come through with the wrecking ball and completely dismantle their team. But when they only have one front to fight a war, it's just so much easier for them. Like I said, the advantage is to the high ground. So when you guys are pushing up, you're taking the most damage, and they're going to be able to push on you and get moments like this where they're just able to completely dismantle your offense. Very good call to not use ults, though. I really do like that. If you identify really quickly that you're going to lose a fight, don't be afraid to make that call, because it's much better to make that call than risk using an ult just to get maybe a little bit of value, an unsure amount of value. It's better to make that call and get a guaranteed amount of value the next fight.
If we get anti, it doesn't get the heal.
So we got 4 ults again for this fight. We don't really have a plan, but we know what ults we have. So what's probably going to happen, I don't remember what's going to happen, but I'm guessing is that all 4 ults are going to go down, and we're going to try and brute force our way through the other opposing team. Which is fine, I guess, if you have ult advantage and if it's a crucial moment. But it doesn't end up being a good situation for our team, because they're able to use their ults much more effectively, because they probably planned this out. They planned they were going to use Shatter first, and then they were going to use the Zenyatta ult, and then they were going to use Nano. And so whenever you work with your ults to the best of their abilities, you're always going to have the advantage over the other team that has zero plan about how they're going to be using it. So if you see nowadays, or now you have Nano Genji, you should be making the call, Genji, get in a spot where you can get ready for Nano. Genji doesn't really need to get in a spot because it's Genji, but you know what I mean. What needs to be happening for these kinds of situations, you look at the resources you have, you think about the resources they have, and you make a plan to work the best out of everything that you have. Whether it's going up top, whether it's going here, whether it's going out here, depends on the situation. But from what I'll always suggest is make the most out of all of the ults that you have. Don't just say we're going to be using them, because that could go anywhere. Your ults could go anywhere, and it could have different meanings depending on who you're talking to. So we want to make it as clear as possible about how this Genji is going to be ulting. He's going to be initiating the fight. We're going to have him go in from up top, or we're going to use our grab first, and then we're just going to Genji blade the whole grab down.
Let's do it. Nanoblade use grab in your fight.
Two picks right here, and then we use grab right here. Grab's overkill. Nano Blade typically is going to win a fight by itself if there's no Zenyatta ult. So what I would do typically if I'm playing Genji is I would initiate the fight, try and get a guaranteed kill off. And if I get that guaranteed kill, it's basically a one fight, especially if you get on the back line, which is what you will be doing. So make sure you guys all communicate about when you're going to be using ults when and where.
Alright, I'm coming up on my ultimate.
So again, there's a lot of macro play that's coming up. Wrath is talking about his ults coming up. This is all things that you guys should be considering all the time.
They might be going top left.
Good calls about where they might be going. Those are always valid calls that are important to keep those eyes over there.
I'm being swung on.
Good sleep. It delays them while your Genji gets back. I love this right here. Well, you guys should encourage Wrath if you see him again making this play. whenever you see the Reinhardt starting to get aggressive like this, and you know he doesn't have hammer down, you can actually make this flank right here, and it's really really powerful. I see it a lot actually, and it can actually be.
Shatter, big,
It's
big.
very unusual.
You want to take two?
But what happens is he ends up charging his own thing and ruining it for everybody, and basically saving everybody that he just shattered. Because they have no heals. There's anti on the Rhine. He got 4 people, I think, with this.
Shatter, big,
He
big.
charges one of them, and the rest of them get out for free. What could have happened is he just starts swinging at them. We get Zarya, who's high charged, right clicking on them, and they'll all be dead for sure. But instead, we end up with a budget situation where we guarantee a kill on one of them, and the other ones are for sure to live because they're flying through the air.
Big, 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 big.
See, and they're almost able to stabilize. The Reinhardt goes and kills Cruz. The Brigitta's swinging completely. I mean, it's just small things like that that can make a real difference. I do actually, I really like this pick with Reaper. Just make sure whenever you swap characters that you communicate it with the team. I listened as hard as I could. I didn't hear a call on the Reaper swap, but it is a good swap. So I definitely support that decision.
Use break it down if you have it.
Oh, sorry.
And again, it's just you guys trying to get back. There's not really much to comment on the end here, because whenever you're trying to get back last minute, they're just going to take you on one at a time, and there's not really much of a chance that you got there. But overall, like you guys played this round very well. The only thing that went bad for you guys was just the ult economy was poorly utilized. You had great ults that all worked together fairly well. I think the team comp was very solid. It's just the ult usage could have been improved. Whenever you think I have nano visor, if you're Ana, if you're Soldier, you guys should be coordinating about where they're going to be going and what we're going to be doing next. So let's just, in the future, let's make sure that it was very clear about something like that, instead of having him in the back line taking free damage while he's trying to get in with his ult. But overall, that was definitely a winnable round for y'all. Very good.
Yeah, right. So.
Okay, this is probably the round that you guys are going to kick yourselves the most over. And this is the round that also you guys got completely destroyed on. Let's look at the comp like we did on the other one. We have Widow, Reaper, Orisa, Hog, Lucio, and Ana. Ana is really good with Reaper, so the synergy is definitely there. But there is this fundamental issue that you're going to see right here that
We're just gonna poke
I don't think ever got addressed very easily. And it could have easily been addressed. But what you see right here is their team puts a barrier on the point. Your team has a barrier over here. You're shooting at their barrier. They're shooting at your barrier. They put another one down. You guys try to burn it down. And once you guys get it down, they're going to put another one down. And it's an over and over and over endless cycle where they're so safe in this spot. And you guys are also really, really safe in this spot. But no one, you can't make headway onto the point. That's the issue right here. And you can't do extra damage to them because your comp can't burst down the shield faster than they can put it up. So what needs to happen for this comp to work is you need to have this slow comp with this high damage shield DPS that's not Reaper. We need to have a Junkrat or someone else to destroy the shield faster than they can put it up. That is the only way that this will work, because otherwise you're going to find yourself in a situation where it's one-on-one, shield versus shield. And you're shooting the shield, and it feels like every time you get it down, you can't do any damage afterwards because they just put it back right up. So I know you guys tried to get cheeky, Orisa halts with Hog Hook, but you can't depend on that for your strategy. That's not a sound strategy to depend on. Those are really hyphy things that are great when they happen, but we got to make sure that we're picking a team that's cohesive. Like I said, we want them to all work together. So what does this team want? Well, our supports and our tanks want a really slow game. Well, maybe not Lucio, but it's King of the Hill. Again, I'm gonna give him an excuse for that. Our supports and our tanks want a slow game, but our DPS, specifically Reaper, wants a fast game, and so you're not going to get a lot of utilization out of him. So what ends up happening is they cap the point, they stay there, and the same kind of situation just keeps happening. You guys put down a wall, they shoot it out, they put down a wall,
Shield 1.
shoot it out again, and it's an endless cycle. If you guys stayed in this position, it would have been going on and on and on until they won the round. Arguably, getting pulled here made it a more even battlefield because your Reaper was able to get in and do damage. So this is just like a very fundamental and very slight issue that basically caused you guys to get completely rolled on this beginning part of this map. And HCK calls I'm going Junkrat, which is a fantastic change. It's literally everything that we could want for this comp, right?
Yeah.
But what ends up happening is as soon as we change the comp to Junkrat, we start getting aggressive. And instead of playing passively, we were playing passively with the Reaper, but now we're on Junkrat and we're playing offensive on the point. And so we have a way better situation on paper. We have a very defensive comp. One of the strongest defensive comps you could possibly have versus a team that's kind of ambiguous. I don't really know what they want with that comp. So you have better healing, you have a better siege than they do. But now you guys are putting yourselves in the situation where you're trying to copy sort of the strategy of like hiding in that corner. But whenever you push, let's go back here. One thing to remember with Orisa is that Orisa has 2 shields if her shield's already down. She has the one that's on the floor and the one that she could throw after it's down. If you're pushing with Orisa, you have 1 shield, the shield that you can put down. So what ends up happening, you guys have way, way, way more damage than the other team. And if you put the shield down where you were over here on Sanctum, and if you put it down there and spam their shield, you would have won the shield war every single time, 100% of the time. And they would have had to get out of this corner. But you guys pushed here in a very offensive manner. You put down your shield, you're going to destroy their shield really quickly. Look how fast it went down, but they're going to have another one. And you're not, because you only had 1 shield because you're on offense. So let's make sure in the future that when we're using comps like this, we remember what they want to accomplish. This comp wants to be defensive. We need to be defensive. We need to basically choke and siege out the opponent. We can't just be offensive randomly whenever we feel like it, or whenever the timer starts getting closer to 90%. You really have to play to the strengths of the comp. So if you guys felt like you weren't getting it on the point as much, switch the comp. Like just switch the comp. Go D.Va. D.Va's really good against Orisa as well as Hog, and Pharah for that matter. It would have been a valid pick, and also some dive characters. You could have been able to make something out of it, but instead, you keep running this slow comp and you put it right here in a spot where you can get bursted down by the Pharah. And I mean, they were not pressured at all the entire game. The Orisa didn't move from this spot for all 100%. I'd like to let you guys know that. Didn't die, probably didn't get below half health, didn't move at all for that entire thing. And it's just like, bronze people could have done that. It's really just a strat thing. It has nothing to do with them being better than you, or you guys being better than them. It has nothing to do with that. And that's why teamwork is so important in Overwatch. We have to make sure that our team is cohesive, is working together, and we're accomplishing the goals that we want to accomplish. And maybe through more coordination, more communication, we'll be able to communicate what we want, what we need to do. But the way it was right there, that for some reason, something wasn't being identified there. That was, when I'm watching, it's glaring me right in the face. But I'm not a player, so it's hard for me to, I'm sure it sounded and felt different when you were playing, obviously. So just keep that in mind. We want to be as cohesive as a group as possible with our comps. And you're going to see on the next map, which is Gibraltar. Actually, you know, I didn't get a chance to talk about Toasty. I'm sorry, I totally skipped over you. Let's go back a little bit to like this 9-minute fight. So Toasty's playing with the team. This is actually really, really good. Most Genjis, whenever they play, they won't be with the pocket, which is fine for certain comps. But if you're going to be playing Genji into a comp that looks like this, you need to be with the team. You really do.
Yeah.
Zarya, you can reflect her grab, which is really important. This is one of the reasons why we keep track of ult percentage. If Zarya hasn't used her ult in 3 minutes, it's probably safe to say she has it, right? So keeping track of this. If you were to dive in on any of the support or backline, you'd get Brigitte stunned and dead instantly. You have no way from any of your teammates to help you. So playing with the team, I thought was really smart. I don't know if you're Genji main, but it shows that you were at least thinking. You're at least thinking in the moment with the right head. So I did want to commend you on that, because I didn't get to watch a lot, but you know that's a really good and wise move.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Let's go on to this one. And again, we're gonna see me talking about the same thing. I'm gonna start sounding like a broken record. But this one, I wanted to talk more about calls because it's really important for specifically the comp that you guys choose here, which is dive. So you guys are running dive on defense. I'm not too familiar with dive on defense on this map. I'm gonna be honest with you. You probably have some sort of strategy in mind. I heard you guys were talking about staying around the blue boxes over here, which it sounds like a sound strategy. Just make sure that with dive, it's played very differently than a lot of other comps. So sometimes you need to break the habit of, as a support, staying back, or as a DPS going for aggressive peaks, things like that. You have to play as a unit, sort of, and it really tests people to try and do comp, or to try and do this comp. So I did want to communicate a couple things
We get
here.
invaded by our own team.
If we skip forward to 1850,
More focused on ribs than on the game. How fitting.
you guys are talking about ribs. So what happens here, I think I've passed it a little bit. It's hard to really do it on this, but Wrath jumps in. He's playing full on dive, right? He is in their spawn. This is a no man's zone, in my opinion. I don't think anyone should ever cross this bridge. I think if you're ever over here, it's a bad sign, or you're destroying the other team, one of the two. But what ends up happening is he doesn't call his jump, and he jumps over here, and then he starts shouting, "Zenyatta's weak, Zenyatta's weak." Or actually, it might be Widowmaker that he's attacking. I don't know. But he starts calling that they're weak, and that's not really an important call, especially when none of your team can follow up, because I think he says Zenyatta's weak, and one of your players that's back here, I think it was HCK, says, "Where is he?" Because he literally cannot see him, because he's so far into the enemy. So what we need to do when we're playing a dive comp is we need to make sure our targets are all in the same distance or in the same sight line. And by doing that, we ensure that we can get all of the damage that we can on the person, because individually the dive comp characters will crumble if you have to fight in like a normal DM. Winston is basically counted by every character in the game. It's the only reason why he's good is because of this pepper damage that he could do. It's very consistent damage and tank and his ult, basically. Diva has a huge headshot hitbox. It's easy to hit by anybody, and she basically can't do much by herself without her rockets. So I mean, these characters, they have the burst potential, right? But you need to be able to use that burst together in order to make a cohesive dive. And that's not what we're going to see throughout a lot of this. And I think at the very end, after you guys are finished with the entire map, after the entire map is over and you guys are done playing dive, someone comments, "Yeah, we weren't really playing dive." And I'm just like, You should have said that one round in or 1 minute in, and all of a sudden you guys would have been on the same wavelength. Like, hey, we're not playing dive. We need to focus on playing dive and the way the dive is meant to be played. But what doesn't happen is that just that. No one's there to call out that dive. We're playing dive. We need to be diving together. There are some cases I will talk about
Bridge?
that the players do call their dives, which I think is great. It's a great habit to get into. Any tank player, if it's Sunto or Wrath, both of you should get into that habit because it just makes everything so much easier. And I don't mean calling out your dive as soon as you're on top of them. I mean saying diving this 1, 2, 3. And the reason why we typically count 1, 2, 3 whenever we're doing it is so we can coordinate our dive at literally the same time with no lag in between. If I'm already on them and I'm saying I'm diving them, it's too late because I've wasted the burst damage from the jetpack, from the jetpack from Winston, the melee as well as the shock damage. I've wasted all of that 70 or 80 damage burst by just going in myself. You got to make sure that we're all going together so the burst isn't healed through. So whenever you call a dive, make a habit out of going, if you're a tank, 1, 2, 3, jumping. 1, 2, 3, jumping. I mean, it's so trivial, but you'll actually see it makes such a big difference. If you call 1, 2, 3, it'll make such a big difference on how quickly the people die. And you'll actually see it on the second round when you guys are on offense here. That does happen, and I think it's the Winston on the opposing team literally melts through his ult. 1,000 health, gone instantly. So, you know,
Tracer mid.
that's why it's so powerful. So I did want to talk about this. You guys are basically, Winston went down earlier, like I showed. He jumped over here and died. He's back now with the team, and we have a player up here, 3 down here. It's more like the support players, and then there's 2 pushing the cart here. This is Discord completely, and this is what the opposing team wants. If you're versing dive, you want to be fighting dive at every single angle that you can, taking them one-on-one, because the power of dive is when you guys are together. And what's not happening is that together as a unit, you know, you need to be a unit. So someone, I don't know if it's Sun or if it's Wrath or whoever, you guys need to be like, hey, we need to group up as 6 and we need to dive the cart up here, in here. I don't even know who's in here, but you need to pick a place and go for it. You can't have the indecisive, oh, I'm going to go for Zenyatta. I'm going to go for whoever's in here. I'm going to go for cart. When you're indecisive, that's when you waste all that damage, and you're never going to get any mileage out of dive, ever. It's all DM at that point.
Zen. Zen is 1.
Widow top. Careful.
I mean, you can kind of see yourself. Everyone's attacking different people right now. What should be happening is we should be grouping up as 6 and just jumping, diving, doing as much together as we can because we're a team, right? We want to be doing as much together as possible. Okay. So, Sun actually says she's talking about her ult that she has with Zenyatta. Sunto has his ult. Cruz has his ult. HDK and Toasty. We have 5 ults on the battlefield right now. The call for the ult is made right here on the map, right before they get to the point, and we're thinking, oh, we should start using ultimates now. It should have been a call way earlier, but the problem is that we were never grouped, so we never got the point. We never thought that way. If you're together, it's much easier to think, oh, hey, I need to use my Zenyatta ult. I need to use my Moira ult. It's much easier to think as a unit. And if you're not grouped up as 6, you're never going to want to use your ult because it's going to feel like you're 1-on-5ing every single time you come out. So basically what ended up happening is you guys lost one person, I think, right here. And then you lost another single person. and then another single person, and then another single person. And then the first person came back, and he died. And then the next person came back, and they died. What should have happened here is this Winston goes down.
Oh, mercy.
Every single person in this group right here should be
Okay.
backing up, out as far as they can, waiting for the opportunity to play something again. Because what happens is they're gonna single-handedly just dismantle your defense one at a time, which is what they want. They don't want to take you guys on together. And so I think I counted it actually. I think it was like 3 or 4 minutes where you guys didn't group up as 6, which is a disaster. I mean, you guys got basically rolled until you grouped up as 6, and then all of a sudden it seems way more fair.
So try to stay high.
And you might wonder, why does it feel more fair? Did we just win the DM? It's actually because you guys grouped up as 6. It's that big of a difference.
I'm low.
I can't help you.
Widow's dead.
Jumps like this are super dangerous. I would not encourage him to do jumps like that, especially if our people on the low ground, specifically, like we have a slower dive with HTK on Soldier, so you have to make sure he's in that sight line, because he could technically dive with us because he can put out that burst damage, but he needs to be able to see the person. So just some more coordination extra coordination that needs to be done. That'll just clean up everything a little bit better.
So back up if you can.
Or use bomb.
Winston Discord, Winston Discord.
Good calls to back up, son.
Mercy's up top left with Winston and Diva.
Let's start looking to use blade, please.
Diva, Diva, Diva.
Here we go. We're looking to use blade. People are calling targets. This is the kind of coordination and talk that you would expect out of the team, not what we've seen for the past 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
Winston?
Oh, they got trapped in the plane.
Tracer.
Tracer.
I'm on Zen. I got Discord.
Plane Discord.
See, we're getting a little bit of focus fire on that Zen. Even if it's a little bit, he was getting pressured out. I mean, it was a little bit, but it shows that you guys are now
Winston Discord in the back.
grouped up. You've gotten the chance to collect your heads and pay attention a little bit more. You guys kind of just brute force your way through this. I completely understand that. You were put on the back foot because of the aggressiveness from the other team. So I'm not gonna
Diva 1. I'm back.
comment on the usage of those ults. I think that was fine.
Oh.
What are we at? 21.
I was not ready.
Okay, let's skip forward to 30 seconds here. So what ends up happening here
I'm here.
is probably something that you guys are gonna look at and be like, what?
Is it real low?
Watch this Winston right here. Okay, remember, we're playing dive, team. We're playing dive. Not one word, not nothing. He's in by himself. There's 5 people around him on the opposing team. And the Widowmaker's getting free shots up here. This is like the most biggest disaster play that you could probably have. And I understand he's probably trying, he's in like the
I'm here with
dive mentality, but even if you're dying a bunch or whatever, you still got to make those like very, very small calls to make sure that we're all on the same wavelength. Because even though that was maybe not the smartest dive, if everyone went together with it, there's still a chance that you guys would have completely wiped the other team with maybe high ground over here. I mean, it's actually that simple. Dive can just be so overpowering for the other team. So I would next time encourage you guys, make a complete habit out of it. I don't care if it's the DPS or the healer or the tanks. It should be the tanks, but make sure the dives are called every single time. Even if it just feels like bookkeeping and everyone already knows that you're diving. Do it. It'll always make a difference in the clutchest situations.
What's in Discord? Mercy Discord. Mercy
Again,
Discord, top
a dive's not called.
Fucking shit.
We need to be calling every dive.
Widowmaker
Widow
stuff
low.
left.
Widow
right.
dead.
Clear took.
Right there. Amazing. This is what dive is right here. Widow's called out right here.
Top right.
Fucking shit.
Tracer Discord.
Look, the power of HCK as well as the Diva onto this Widow overwhelms her in seconds, and she's completely dead,
Would I make
Widow
a shot
low.
for that?
just like that.
Widow dead.
Pluto can't see you.
That's the power of dive. That's only 2 players. If you sent 5 players at her, she would have been gone like that, instantly. And that's literally, quite literally, the power of dive to completely take out a member of their team, make them have the worst day of their lives, make them feel like their Widow pick is completely useless. That's the point. We don't want them to be playing Widow. And another thing to note is that whenever there's a Widow on the other team, especially if you're playing against a good team, Widow is number 1 priority. You can't let her get free shots. A Widow that's getting free shots is basically a free win for them. So you guys are doing great so far in this game, calling out the Widow, but I just wanted to make that 100% sure.
Left. Mercy's by you, Sunto.
What's in Discord? What's in Discord?
Real low. I'm out of mech.
Let's see.
Here we go.
Run
I'm
off
on
I can't
Zen.
Winston
see
comes
all.
back in. Everyone's
Yeah,
coming and
I'm
attacking now
diving.
because of the space that he's providing.
Yeah, I would.
It's like a 4v4 here because they're down a couple players as well. This is what I'm talking about with the Genji ult. If they're playing Zenyatta and you're playing Genji, every time you're going to use your ult, every time you use your ult, expect Zenyatta to ult. It's always going to happen. Zenyatta's always going to ult here.
Okay.
The only reason the Zenyatta is even picked right now is for Genji. Like, legitimately think about the reason why Zenyatta is being played here. It's almost a dead pick. They have no healing on the team at all. Like, very little healing. So they're just going to get completely demolished by your team if you get really aggressive on them. And the only reason they've given up this healing is because they really wanted to Zen to counter the Genji. So let's make sure we're paying attention to that and expecting it. Don't get caught off guard by it, because there are like pro players like Shadowburn who play Genji a lot, and they'll just use their ult, and the Zenyatas will instinctively use their ult like before they even see him. It's actually that much of a counter pick, and it is a good counter pick. If you guys ever run into a really good Genji while you're playing for Tespa or in scrims overall, consider playing a Zenyatta for his Discord as well as his ult. So it was a good pick on their part, but I think they gave up a little bit too much healing that they could have had on like an Ana or their Genji. So I think their comp's a little bit weaker than it could have been.
Pluto back up.
Genji's low.
Ulting.
This is a good ult. HTK gets a great ult here.
What's in Discord? What's in Discord?
Able to get a free kill on one of their DPS, and now they're on the back foot. They have to come in one at a time, basically, because they're
Zen's 1.
pressured by time.
Actually.
Here's what doesn't happen here, which I actually want to emphasize. I think the 11th commandment in the Bible
Discord.
is call all of the sleeps. Anytime Ana sleeps a target, you call it. Every single time. Look what happens.
I'm on Zen. Zen's
What?
bot.
What was that? Walked up and naded. Not even shot first. You could have shot first. We need. I mean, this is Cruz. He's on my team, so I'll get at him after this. But every sleep needs to be called and coordinated with. It's a free kill every single time. Like it's free. There are certain situations where you have high AoE comps, and it's really hard to capitalize on because you have so much spam coming out. But try your hardest. Every sleep, we want to get a guaranteed kill off of that, because that completely stalls
The sleep
their push.
Sleep is 5 seconds, right?
5 seconds, yeah.
Yeah, that's freaking long.
And if you're really concerned about coordinating, and especially with some of the characters like Sombra, Tracer, who can kind of just immediately get out after they wake up, what I would do is, if you're like both 2 healers together, what I typically do is I go over comms. I say 1, 2, 3. I don't even talk about what I'm doing. The person that's also targeting the sleeping target will know. So I do 1, 2, 3, and then I shoot, and typically everyone will attack them at the same time and they'll be obliterated in the next dimension. So make sure we focus on sleeps. It's the 11th commandment, okay?
Okay.
And I also
Actually,
I want to turn this up, and I want to be completely quiet for this part, because this right here, the last like 5 seconds of this game, this is what dive looks like, okay, and feels like to listen to. This is where you guys actually played a very cohesive and very good dive, but it was at the very end of the game.
Mercy
Mercy
solo.
purple.
What's on point? What's on point?
Diva
Watch out
bomb
for that.
enemy.
Mercy, Mercy, Mercy. Widow, Widow, Widow. Diva, Diva, Diva. Reaper, Reaper, Reaper.
There we go. It doesn't seem that hard. It really doesn't. It's really just a matter of picking that target and being very decisive with it. And when Sun was calling out those targets, she was the only one calling out a target, and so it was clear to everyone, we got to focus this character, right? When Mercy was called, she didn't even get a fourth of the way through her res before she was dead. When Winston was called, he was dead within seconds. I mean, you guys actually did such a great job with dive, but only for the last 10 seconds. You know, I definitely see just from that clip that there's a ton of potential with you guys in terms of focus firing and team damage and together as a team, because that shows that you guys are at least capable of it. It's just a matter of the execution, and that's one of the hardest parts about playing dive, is getting that execution right. We played in a scrim yesterday, last night, and there was a Doomfist, and they used him to engage every single dive. He would use his right click or his E or whatever and dive onto our healers, and as soon as he would land, at the second he would land, there would be 3 people or 4 people on our healer at the same time. That's the kind of like coordination, and they creamed us typically whenever they did that. That's the kind of coordination that I want to see out of you guys in the future, because that'll completely demolish even the best team, even a team, any team that you can think of. If you're able to pull off a very, very coordinated dive, even the best Overwatch teams in the league can't stop their healers from dying, and you can hold that over them. Even if you lost the fight afterwards, you were able to kill, Custa or whatever, one of the healers for sure, without a chance of counterplay. So that's the idea behind dive. Make it that 5v6, and then just, steamroll that advantage on. So yeah, great calling at the very end there. So I don't think they finished, so you swap it
Do
over.
Mercy Farah and then the Genji.
There's Ace right there.
Fast.
Okay. Here it is.
The ultimate flex player.
We're going to the
focuses on
bridge,
range.
challenging bridge.
Okay, I like this. You guys have a very good comp here. Again, I'm going to talk about it. Winston, Diva, Mercy, Lucio, Pharah, Genji. You guys have given up on the very hard dives for more verticality. I admire that. I think it's a great decision on this map. Verticality and long range, that wins this map. Hands down. If you have high ground on this map and you have range, you win every single time, no matter who you're playing against. It doesn't matter. That's why Widow is so dominant on this map. That's why Soldier 76, McCree, Hanzo, all these characters that are long range are so unbelievably powerful on this map, and may not be even close to being as powerful on other maps. So I really do like that you guys have foregone Tracer, because Tracer doesn't have that verticality. You've foregone the Moira pick or whatever to combo with the Pharah. You could have easily just picked Pharah and run regular dive, but it wouldn't have worked as well. You guys were clearly thinking about the whole. And the whole right now, we have a Mercy Pharah, great combo. We have a Genji, who's a fantastic dive character to combo with Winston, Diva, and you have Lucio to speed boost, obviously, right? This is a fantastic composition, and you'll see it's going to pay you guys dividends in this future fight. The first fight, you guys play it
They're
excellent.
here. They're all here. I got booped off. Back up. a
You
little
play
bit.
on bridge, which is making great advantage of the verticality that your team has. All of your players are on
don't
bridge
wanna
right
die
now.
here.
They can't say the same. They can't get their
Thanks, Paul.
characters up there
Low.
instantly.
Back
He
up.
dives, he pushes them
Mercy.
off. This is a great situation. He should be backing up. He backs up. Now you're playing off of Farah while you wait for him to get health and come back in. This is fantastic. Textbook
I
play.
have Discord.
You're pushing them back,
Mercy's
making
rezzing.
pushing
Mercy res the Hanzo.
like I think when people think of pressure, it doesn't necessarily mean you're attacking them. Pressure can just mean a positional advantage against your opponent. So if you're standing up here, your opponent's not going to want to stand right here. Does that make sense? You're putting map pressure, like we like to call it. You're putting on map pressure, and so what they're going to do is they're going to back up so that their back is against the wall and they don't have to worry about that high ground advantage that you guys have. So map pressure is a very big thing to consider, and you don't always need to be jumping on people. It could just be foregoing a fight just to get the positional advantage. Like we always said, high ground wins on this map. So keeping that high ground, pushing them off of it is definitely top priority. And look at this. Look how sad this is. They have a soldier and a Hanzo sitting on the bottom. Like everyone's together on their team, and this is like the worst possible situation for their team. Soldier should be up here in the back. Hanzo should be doing some monkey stuff over here. Who knows? But they should not be right here. This just shows how uncomfortable you guys made them with that initial push. They don't know what to do. They're on the back foot, and that's the power of dive. Unfortunately, Monkey overcommits there, jumping on all 6 of them. But that's fine. You could just wait here and halt and hesitate,
Back up if you can.
or halt the push for now.
Alright.
They are only able to get 4 people up here. Alternatively, you guys are able to get 6 people up to high ground. This is a clear advantage, in my opinion. Next time you guys group up as 6, you should be able to just completely roll through these 3 that are on top, or at least push them down. And that's
Blue
exactly
box
what
in
happens.
3, 2, 1.
Blue box in 3, 2, 1. That's a proper dive right there. Everyone gets on. Some people are a little bit late because they were in the back. That's fine.
Blue's down left.
Soldier on the right side.
We just got to make sure that we clean that up a little bit in the future. Look, they don't stand a chance. You guys have 6 people versus 2 of their tanks. They're the only ones that are able to get up there.
Soldier right side by himself.
So that's that positional advantage
This is done.
paying off. You know, they can't get up there.
Monkey got res.
Their soldier gives up high ground right here, and now he's sitting on the floor again because he was afraid of getting dove by one of your tanks. So now he's in an awful situation right here where he ults right here in front of 3 of your team that are sound barriered because he's so desperate to make something out of his life. But you guys you guys put up such a great iron wall that they're sitting on every single one of their ults. They didn't know what to do. They weren't able to push because your aggression was just so high caliber, top tier, that you just dismantled them. They didn't know what to do. Like I said earlier, when you guys were on defense, you were holding on to 4 ults because you guys were so split up. They were so pressured that they held on to their ults. They didn't know what to do. And now they're wasting ults trying to get some amount of value and be able to hold this point desperately. And it's not going to help them when they're forced like this.
Let's get that Mercy who's healing him.
He's trying to delay for his team. His team's not there because
I got bubble.
one of them just died. They're using all of their ults here, but they're getting absolutely no value out of them. Widows or our Farah's still
I'm
getting
low,
free
I'm
reign
low,
from high
I'm
ground.
low.
I'm ulting, I'm ulting.
I'm dead.
I mean, look at this. This is very, very good play. I'm out.
Diva done.
I was very impressed by this first point. Very, very impressed by this first point.
Push up a little bit.
Oh,
Let's
give
push up
yourself
a little
to the
bit. Let's
building.
play on.
This is like that point. I think is what you guys should strive to do every single game with dive. Strive to get that positional advantage over the other team if they're a low mobility comp. Strive to make your dives coordinated. Call that blue box 1, 2, 3 or 3, 2, 1. Make those coordinated calls because that's what made the difference there. Push them into a spot where they didn't like to be.
Flame.
And whenever even the best team can crumble under that much pressure.
Mercy and Monkey main. I'm on
So
Mercy.
this part is I think where your offense falls through a little bit. It becomes a lot harder for you guys to coordinate when I feel like some people are focusing on up here, some people are focusing on the point in this area. We need to have, for sure, a main caller, maybe listening to Wrath whenever he makes a jump. Maybe encourage him to make a little bit more passive jumps, but whenever he makes a jump, make sure you follow up on it and are listening with your ears open. Because otherwise, our split, like I said,
I gotta push it out.
you're not doing as much damage,
Yeah,
and
I
the dive
know.
is almost pointless.
No.
See, that was an aggressive point or aggressive jump. You guys called him out on it. He understands. He's a rational being.
Whistle up, whistle up, whistle up.
So make sure you guys are all communicating with all that stuff.
D.Va saved him.
So I wanted to highlight here at
Every
19:30. I guess we're approaching it pretty quickly. What happens here is another case of what I was talking about on the King of the Hill map.
She's gonna fly to somebody else.
What happens is you guys have a bunch of ults that are all preparing to get ready. 3 ults right here, but no real plan to use them. We need to make sure that our ults aren't just sporadic. Make sure that every ult is purposeful and properly communicated. We can't just randomly use our ults because we feel like using them. We want to make the best out of the amount of space that our team provides. So if I'm using a Pharah ult, for example, which is probably going to be coming up here shortly, I'm creating diverting a lot of attention on the other team, which means that a D.Va bomb would be much more successful because their attention is diverted, or because their attention is diverted, or because they're so focused on killing the Pharah, maybe they stay a little bit too long to get killed by the D.Va bomb. These are the kinds of things that we should be considering instead of just I'm gonna ult to try and get one pick, because there's no guarantee that you're gonna get that. You want to make the most out of every ult that we get here. So I feel like some of the stuff, especially like this D.Va bomb ult, I think it was meant to go over. I'm not sure, but it's just you have to ask, like, what is the reason behind this? And it doesn't seem like there's a good reason, besides maybe to push the tanks off of the high ground, which could be a very valid reason, but you have to have something on the low ground to follow up on that, right? We need to have a reason to put them on the low ground. If we had a Zarya, maybe pushing them off the high ground with a D.Va bomb puts them all together on the low ground so we can Zarya ult. Something like that. That's just a glancing thought, but we need to make sure that we're not using ults sporadically, or maybe even waiting for an ult combo or something. All that could be good. So this is more like a scrap fest again. I feel like whenever targets aren't being called, I think a lot of the team kind of reverts to maybe solo queue mentality, maybe something else. It feels like I'm watching a DM. Like you guys are just going around. We have Sunto attacking this guy with 2 others right here. We have, I think that's the monkey right here attacking the other monkey on point. We need to make sure everyone's coordinated on the same page. Okay, so make an effort next time to ensure that everyone's on the same page. Especially with the calls. I mean, you guys are clearly capable of making the right calls, especially with focus, as was shown in the last round. It's just a matter of executing and carrying out those calls. So let's move on here to 1 minute 17, I think. Okay, so what happens here is we're holding 5 ults right here. Wrath makes the call to start going in. You guys respectfully disagree and say, we're going to wait for you. Great decision. You never want to go 5v6, even if you have all of your ults. You're never going to get good value out of it. You want to have as much players on the battlefield as you can possibly have. So disagreeing is fine in competitive games. There's always going to be maybe a slight disagreement with how things should have gone, but don't be afraid to stand up for yourself if it's something that you really know to be true. and I think it was the right play together. I mean, it seems like most of you were on the same page here with hesitating for a little bit until he came back, and then going in and being able to roll them through, which I thought was really good. It shows that at least some of you guys are level-headed and thinking constantly.
Going with Valk and Rosing.
Okay.
The kills are coming in, but again, the focus is random. We need to be calling monkey, 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 monkey. Farah, 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 Farah. There's no target calling at all right now. Just dead quiet in the comms. Just someone calling, they're dead, they're getting out, things like that. These aren't useless calls when we're trying to make sure that our focus is all on one person. Okay, another situation. Toasty, you use your ult and immediately the Zen uses his ult.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to happen every time. Expect it.
Okay.
Right? Nothing wrong with ulting there at all. Just make sure when you ult on specifically with a team that has a Zen, try and keep your at least reflect or maybe your shift up so you can get out immediately after. Because blowing a support ultimate in this game is with a DPS ultimate is way worth. It's way worth. You always want to do that. So if you can force him to use his ult just by even being near him and using your ult just to scare him, it works. It legitimately works because everyone knows with Ana Blade in the game right now, if you don't pop your ult immediately once you hear that Yuji no Kyukura or whatever, you're dead. You're straight up dead because he's targeting the Zenyatta first always. Trying to get rid of that ult, get it out of the situation so he can wipe your entire team. So expect something like that. You got to be kind of big brain. You got to really think about how is he going to react to my dash in? Do I have my team near me to back up? Certain things like that are really important. What you did right here, I'm not gonna argue. I'm not gonna say it was a bad play. I think it was actually fine. You forced Zenyatta ult, and they even overcommitted with a soldier ult, right? But I think what you should have done is as soon as you go down, I think you should say, get out. They used 2 ults. Wait, I'm getting a call on Discord. Okay. They used 2 ults. Our job is to get out with a positive net gain of 1 ult over them or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Because if they're going to overcommit ults like that, you got to take it. And what happens here is that you use your ult, and they use nanovisor, and all of a sudden, he's just taking down the entire team. What should have happened is the call should have been back out, back out, back out, back out, because they used 3 ults right there for you, just because you bladed. All of that just because you bladed, because of the presence and like, I guess, like the fear that Genji puts on a lot of players. All of that was completely unfair, and you should have capitalized on that. If a team's going to be wasting ults and chunking them out, just like you did when you guys got, grabbed and hammered down, and Ryan got nano boosted, and they wasted 5 ults just to wipe you guys, and you're like, hold on to the ults, guys, just wipe here, we're going to come back later and kill them. It's the same idea. If they're going to be overcommitting ults, don't let them get any value out of it. Immediately just run, because that's a waste of ults on their part. Even if it's just, even if you just want to wait it out, If a diva bomb's coming in, you hide. If a soldier's attack visoring, you hide. You take the engagement whenever it's beneficial to you. So if we see that situation again in the future, I would hope that you guys would identify and say, they're using everything for our Genji. Fuck the Genji, let's get out. 5 people, wait for Genji to come back. You have a huge advantage on the next fight. And the Zenyatta pick is only for Genji. Remember, like I said, the Zenyatta here is only for Genji. It is no synergy with any of the other characters. All of your other characters, for example, Farah, she can kill people through Zenyatta ult because she has higher DPS than he has healing. Diva Bomb insta kills people. Zenyatta's healing does nothing against that. I mean, these are 2 huge synergies, or 2 huge counters to Zenyatta that he's completely giving up by making that pick. So we want to We want to just have him stay on Zenyatta as long as possible, and you know, kind of just have a weaker comp in that situation. So I think overall the Genji pick is good because it forced a Zenyatta on the other team because they weren't comfortable playing against the Genji clearly. And I think you could have maybe made even a little bit more advantage from this change. Yeah, so this monkey and diva, they just dived you when you were pushing right here. You know, the call should have been made faster, I think.
Make sure you always have your shift too. Don't be making peaks if you don't have your reflect and shift.
Okay.
Specifically reflect, because it's just so good at building ult.
Okay, so I think ACK saw that the monkey was low and wanted to secure the kill. I'm pretty sure that's what he was thinking. I think that's a great usage of Pharah's ult. It's one of those ults where usage is kind of limited because if you use it on top of the entire team, you're basically guaranteeing that you're dying. So you have to pray and hope to God that you're gonna get a pick with it. What most Pharah players would do is not that high feel like hover around the back, hide over here, come up, because they can hear your jetpack if they're actually like really tryharding. They can hear your jetpack from like very, very far away. So going for like big burst plays like that with her ult, I actually think is really, really good. So I really like that. And then again, I think this is more DM here. I think we need to be waiting for our tank here in this situation because you're just taking a lot of extra damage, building their ults when they have shields, they have defense matrix, so they're going to be getting a lot more ult charge in these engagements than you guys are, which never helps anybody in terms of the macro game. So you need to have that purpose, you need to have that direction. Make sure your team is together for a dive. Because when the teams are better than you, you're never going to win those fights. Okay, I like this right here. The monkeys right here, they have a split comp essentially, and what you guys do is you call out the high ground, and your monkey goes and claims high ground over here, and they decide to try and dive the monkey or they give up their high ground over here. Either one is good. And this is that positional pressure that I was talking about. All of a sudden, when he's up here, the people aren't gonna feel safe underneath him, and they're gonna back out a little bit, which is it's such an interesting thing, and it's like almost a habit for most players that they'll just be so afraid that they'll back out and look exactly like clockwork. They're gonna be backing out because of the presence that you guys have here, and so essentially what you guys did is you forced the team that was up here to back out completely and put themselves in an unfavorable situation, which I thought was very, very good, identifying that. So, and then right here, he should be called out and taken down immediately. If a soldier's going to be using his ult and he's by himself in a situation like that, that should be an instant Q. We're playing dive, we're diving him. You guys tried to. I think 2 people were able to get on him, but like I said, the more the merrier, the faster you'll be able to kill and ensure that kill more reliably. So let's make sure that the dives are called out. Don't be afraid of Soldier ult. It's really weak. It's just the only thing about Soldier ult is it's guaranteed damage. That's the only thing that it has. It's even less damage than if he was to get hitting headshots normally. So don't be afraid of Soldier ult if someone is using it in a disadvantageous spot. In fact, you should see it and aggress on it. Same thing with the Pharah ult. If a Pharah is using it in a disadvantageous spot where she's putting herself out in the open, you guys should be engaging on that and hammering her down, because I promise you, she might be able to kill one of you guys, but it's way better to trade 1 for 1 than to just cower, try and hide, maybe pull up a shield. All of that stuff's not going to help you in the long run, because that damage that she puts out is so high that if you leave it up for too long, it'll just completely overwhelm the team. So as soon as you see Pharah, no matter what you're doing, no matter what the jump call is, if she's ulting, you get on her. Okay? Things like that. Those are some unconscious calls that need to be made in your mind. Again, I think this is an issue of backing out that I saw quite a bit in this game. We got to make sure that when we're backing up fully, because really good teams, especially on maps like King's Row, the second portion of King's Row, they'll push all the way to the third point. They'll hold you inside of your spawn in that choke area, and you'll have nothing to do. So you got to be, or they'll try and spawn camp you in the subway, which I think actually happened during this scrim. So make sure that when you guys are down players, that you play very passively, more than you would in a normal game, because with these coordinated teams, especially if they're running, I don't even know what this is, like a pseudo dive. If they're running something like this, make sure that you're not putting yourself in a place where you can get jumped on. But yeah, he ended up overcommitting. You guys collapsed on that and got that kill instantly. Genji uses ult. Guess what happens? Toasty uses his ult. Guess what happens? Honestly, if he keeps doing this, you should call him out on it. Like, before everyone goes, you should say, "Wait, I'm gonna use my ult. Go and engage. Force that ult. Get out." And legitimately, like, it might be even beneficial to the team to do that, because that ult is so valuable, support ults in this game, that all they will have is the Mercy ult, or the Mercy ult, which is one of the weaker ults in the game. So definitely identify those kinds of situations, play around them. There might be a way to bend that to your advantage. So just think about those kinds of things in the future if you're gonna keep running Genji. Because I promise you, if you're gonna be running Genji, you're gonna run into a lot of Zenyatas. So just prepare yourself for that. That was an unfortunate dash. That's right on top of the bomb. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you on that. But you guys beat their time. You went further than them. You weren't able to collect it together here because of the defensive diva bomb. Notoriously is extremely hard to deal with on offense. Specifically because, like I said, when on that Orisa in Sanctum, when you're pushing, you're going to be using your shield when you're pushing, and her ult is super good if the other team doesn't have shields, especially in like open areas like payload maps. Around the payload typically is a very open area, so you can get a lot of value out of breaking those shields while they're trying to get to the cart, and then immediately diva bombing because they have nothing to defend themselves on in a big open area. That's exactly what they did, and it's kind of unfortunate, and it's something that you're probably gonna have to get used to, and it's kind of hard to play around. But my best advice for a situation like that would be to make sure you keep track of diva bombs if they have their ult. If not, don't worry about it. There's no reason to. And I think that concludes all of the stuff that I've looked into a lot. Here it was. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said it right there.
Surprised we got that far, considering there was actually no dive.
The call should have been made earlier. And there should have been a refocus maybe on dive, because you guys might have forgotten at the end that you were on dive. Sometimes it's hard to remember. So, just remember that. Keep that in mind. I think overall you guys played really well. I think they're very small, macro decisions that could be improved on, but I could easily see you guys beating, 3,300, 3,500 teams if you play correctly, play to your skills, and just execute. Whenever you guys were on defense on that map, you were calling out things, and it was working super well. Maybe you want Sun to be one of your main target callers, because I don't know. She has like a very loud voice.
Feels good.
Maybe you want something
Because
like
she's
that.
a girl.
Maybe,
So,
maybe it's easily identifiable because it's a girl, so you can
Yeah.
understand whenever she makes a call, that's above everything else. Whatever you got to do to know that subconsciously, whenever that person makes that sound with their mouth,
Yeah.
it's way more important than any other mouth sounds that's going on right now.
So,
Thank you for the
Suit.
explanation.
18 versus B team win.
Yes.
That's what I was saying. I feel like it'd be a pretty good match. But yeah, is there anything that else like specifically? I know you guys. It's been a little bit since this match. Is there a map? I mean, there's Lijiang, there's Dorado. We could keep talking about things. That's kind of everything I have prepared, at least. Because
I
it
just wish
took
I
me
was
quite a
playing.
bit to take notes and stuff.
Wish I was playing in that map. The VOD.
Yeah, honestly, I wish I got first person perspective on a lot of you guys. I really want to tear into y'all.
Are you still there?
Me, yeah.
If you record our scrim on Saturday, can you try and get some first-person views, especially with the DPS, so we can tear into them?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Thanks.
Wait, what?
I you know, actually, since we don't have anything planned right now, I do want to go back to some things that I just, you know, things that I liked that might not have been noticed. There are some things. This is
Now.
so, like I said, Genji playing with the
You
pocket's
might be
really
going
good. One thing that's pretty
Was that me?
yeah, that is
Yeah,
you.
that's you.
You were in this.
Oh.
Yeah, I was ragging on you. Oh, dude, I was so ragging on you earlier.
Wait, can you go
You
back
didn't
to the
call
point?
a freaking sleep.
Can you
Who
show
are
me
you?
Yeah.
You didn't.
Show
You didn't
him.
call.
Oh, that infuriated me.
Who doesn't call a sleep?
On a
man?
mercy too.
Diva, diva, diva.
Oh, this is
It
right,
was before
right
this.
before, or right after, yeah. Oh my god, it's so hard because it's so long. That sounds nasty.
Ooh.
Here you go. Here.
One's in Discord, one's in Discord.
Yeah, this is it.
What's in Soul Discord?
I'm on Zen.
What? What was that? You just antied her. You didn't even call her. You just antied her, and she just flies off like nothing happened. What is that? That's the number one sin on playing Anna. Thou shalt call sleeps. That's the 11th commandment.
You should put that in chat.
It's true. You can't just let it. You can't just let it go as like a call. Oh, it's not important that she slept right here. you should call that every time. So
my bad.
honestly, I understand. I'm not gonna get into you because you're not an anime or whatever. But come on, man, you know better than that.
Okay.
We call an A team. We call every sleep. You're making us look bad.
I
We
don't know
call
if
every
I see
sleep.
that.
You're making us look bad when you do stuff like that. You're our representative. All right. So yeah, I saw Genji reflecting fire strikes, which I thought was great because, like I said, whenever you're playing Rein Zarya, which I think you guys pretty heavily rely on for the majority of these maps, which is fine. Zarya's, in my opinion, the hardest character in the game to play, but if your Zarya plays her a lot, then utilize her because Zarya's really good, and if you have a better Zarya than the opponents, you can basically destroy them, guaranteed. But if they're getting fire strike damage and you're playing Genji, don't be afraid to walk in front of the Rein, counter that fire strike, because if not only to build ult, but also to make sure that they don't get their tank ultimates fast. The faster the tank ultimates come down, the more team wipes you're going to see. Tank ultimates are crucial in this meta. That's why Goats is so powerful. That's why Dive is so powerful. I mean, tank ultimates are everything. So if you can do anything that you can to stop it, for example, if a Zarya is on point and there's two supports on point, who do you target first? Zarya, every single time. It should be almost. It should be first instinct is to go after those high priority tank targets, because when their ults come up, that's when you start wiping, and you got to be ready for that. So out of all the characters to be keeping track of ults, Ryan Earthshatter should be one of your number one priorities. Think about how much he's swinging. Think about how many fire strikes he's getting off. It's pretty easy to guess. If he gets like maybe 15 swings off, he's got his ult. If he gets maybe 10 fire strikes off, he has his ult. So prepare yourself, because it's going to come up probably twice as much as the Zarya one is. If he uses his hammer down, expect either another hammer down or a Zarya ult after. So just keep all that stuff in mind. It's really not hard to consider once you get in the groove. You know, it's been 2 minutes, haven't seen a Zarya ult. You know, it's kind of like which one of these is missing, kind of like those really old games. Which one is missing? You know, or which one doesn't match? It's kind of like that. It's you just really gotta keep your eye on the tank ultimates for the other team. So yeah, I like that. And then overall, I think I'm gonna try and go down the list for players really quickly, individually, because I know I've been talking a lot about the team as a whole, and I don't want to talk about the players badly, because I'm your number one supporter, no matter what anyone says.
Wait, it should be thou shall call sleeps.
Thou
shall.
I don't know.
Sachi squad. It's now.
Thou shall.
What do you mean? That's what it says.
Yeah, got him.
Just ignore the edited at the end.
So, for Wrath, I think Wrath's strongest character, by hands down, is this Ryan. I think he's gonna carry you guys through a lot of games where you feel like you probably would have lost without him. His Ryan, he definitely has a really, really good awareness with Ryan. And especially with the hammer down that he does on this map right here, that's plays that only Ryan mains make. Like literally no one ever does that. It's only Ryan mains that do that kind of stuff. So he's definitely got a good head on his shoulders in terms of Ryan main, and he swings really good. I wish I had him on the A team, honestly, because it'd be great to have such a good Ryan main just to swap in whenever we need one. But alternatively, when he's on Winston, you guys need to be talking to him and making sure he doesn't go ADHD and jump straight into 6 people, because it happened quite a lot. And you got to remember, even though you're playing Winston and you're doing dive, it's not always the right time to be diving. Just identify a target, call it, make the play. Don't decide to play before you make the call. And that's, I think, his big issue with Winston. Sunto, I saw you on Zarya. I can't say I can't say a lot because Zarya is so complex, and it's hard to say without watching your perspective. But I did like your Zarya grabs. They were almost always fairly well timed, and they almost always got some sort of anti on them, which I think is very good credit to. I think Cruz was playing Ana most of the time. So credit there. Grav plus anti every single time. If you have if your teammate has a grav up and you're playing Ana, you must keep your grenade. Hands down. It's necessity in this meta. You need your grenade every single gravel, okay? And alternatively, if you get gravel and you're playing D.Va, you need to hold right click and scan the area for that biotic grenade coming in. That's the only way you're going to live through it. Because right now, the healing in the game is so powerful that you can actually survive an entire team's focus if you play it well enough in a grav around a shield. But if you get biotic grenaded, it's done. You have no chance at all, no matter how bad the team is or how good the team is. So make sure that biotic grenade and grav should be a combo in your head, just like Nano and Blade is a combo in your head. It should be literally hand in hand. There's no exception, no one without the other. So that's another thing to consider. But Suto, your Zarya play was fairly good. I saw that you were living pretty long, which I think is a quality of a good Zarya player. What I would make sure to do is, and this is just a general case because it's hard for me to give you specific tips, but whenever there's no backline dealer, for example, this comp right here, most of your bubbles should be going onto the front line. If they have a lot of backline like Genji, Doomfist, your bubbles should be saved exclusively, almost exclusively, for your tank or for your healers. I mean, so when they want to dive, you get that bubble on the healer every single time. No ifs, ands, or buts, right? Like I said, when a coordinated dive comes in, there's almost no chance that that person will survive, except if there's a Zarya on the team who's been paying attention, right? So make sure that you're able to adapt your playstyle based on what the opposing team is playing. Other than that, I'd like to see a little bit more calls out of you. With D.Va, you're just as important as your main tank, even though it might not feel like it since Winston gets all the credit for the jumps. But you're just as important. If Winston's down and you find a target like that one Widow on that map, or on Gibraltar, you gotta make that call and be decisive on it just as much as he is. So I would like to definitely see a lot more of that. And again, follow the rule of 1, 2, 3, jump. It just helps everybody always. Now for Sun, I didn't see a lot out of you. Meaning I didn't get to see your perspective specifically. But I was able to watch your Lucio play. I think I was able to watch your Mercy, right? You played Mercy in this. Yeah. Oh, you also played Zenyatta for the team. I didn't realize that. But yeah, wow, you kind of had a handbag of characters. I think what you should try and do is limit your healers a little bit and have your teammates have the other healers, if that's fine by you. I don't know how controlling you are, but
You're right. I usually only play Lucio and Zen.
yeah, you played I think 4 different characters in this, so there's 6 healers, so you played 2/3 of them. So Brigitte and Mercy, Ana, and Lucio. Is that right? Something like that. Oh, Zen and Lucio. So what I would say is try and limit your healers. It's always important, just as much as it is to have tanks that are coordinated together. You should be best friends with your healers, and you guys should be covering each other, having each other's back always. If your Ana gets asleep and calls it, right? Don't be afraid to actually do the damage to kill the person, because you and the Ana can definitely put out 200 damage easily, no matter who you're playing, even if it's Mercy. So if you guys are always together and always in a place where you guys can always work together to the best of both of you guys, then that's a place where you should probably be. In terms of ults, I didn't get to see much of your ult. I saw that you held on to Lucio ult on the Nepal map for quite a long time, but I think it's mainly just because of miscommunication from the team. You didn't want to get no value out of it, so you just kind of held it. So I completely understand that. I think ult calling on specifically King of the Hill maps, I think, is probably one of y'all's #1 priorities as a team. So make sure the ults are called on those maps. Other than that, I can't talk too much about anything else. Just make sure that when you're playing Lucio, you're not overextending because he's fast. And that's it. I'm not going to talk about Cruz because he knows, I hope, what he should be doing from all the time that we've spent talking already. HTK, I really like your DPS play, dude. I like your swaps, and I like your DPS play, and I think you're a good addition to the team. With your Pharah play, I think you use her ult very good. I think you should keep up the way that you're doing it now, not going for the flashy plays, but going for the very reliable 1 or 2 kills with it. It's always going to be better for your team having a very reliable Pharah to count on versus one that's night or day. Is kind of like you either prosper and get a lot of kills with them, or you don't. This is the issue typically with projectile hits with projectile characters, specifically, Junkrat, Pharah, Genji is also one of them, but not so much. But when you're playing these characters, you need to make sure that you're getting as much damage out reliably as you can, because what we had here on offense was Pharah and Genji, both projectile characters, both typically not considered reliable damage. So that means that both of you need to be a little bit more aggressive, need to make sure that you're both getting a lot more damage out, because they could easily just be doing way more damage than you if they are hitting all their shots with McCree. This is why we have typically one projectile, one hit scan on a team if we're doing 2-2. So just make sure you're getting all the value you can. Be as reliable as you can for the team, like you probably have been so far. It looks like your Pharah play is probably among the strongest out of your DPS. I'd really like to see some more work with your tanks. I saw that at a lot of points, whenever dives were called on the King of the Hill map, you guys weren't together or weren't coordinating as well. Specifically in dive, I'd like to see you with them, even though you're playing Pharah, or even though you're playing whatever character it is that you end up playing, Reaper or whatever. Make sure that you're with them for that, because that's, like I said, the whole power of dive. And then finally, Toasty, I like that you're playing Genji, and I like that you're comfortable on Genji. And it kind of shows that you are through your play and how you tackle different comps and how you were aggressive against the really weak one on Gibraltar, and how you were very passive against this really strong Death Volley tank comp that they had on Shrine right here. So I'd say you're definitely thinking when you're playing Genji. I really like that. I admire that. It's a sign of a great player and a great addition to the team. Just make sure that your ults are always I don't know, like profitable in some way. Genji's ult is not considered one of the better ones now because Brigitta's in the game. So you really want to get at least some value out of his ult, be it waiting until the fight. Like Shadowburn, for example, I keep going to him because I'm a fanboy, I'm sorry. But he a lot of the time in Overwatch League, you saw him waiting until there were some picks for either side of the fight before using his ult, because it can make sure that at least some of the cooldowns that can really frustrate and dismantle Genji players, for example, Flashbang, Doomfist right click, Brigitte right click, Discord being on another target, Sleep Dart, Anti-Heal, all of these things can be used typically used pretty quickly in a fight. So if you wait even just a slight amount of time, you can get a lot more value out of your ult. Making sure that you coordinate with the Ana where you want to go in, where you want to initiate with your Nano Blade is crucial to good Genji play. And then and getting that insta kill with it too. So make sure you always, whenever you call a Nano Blade, you have the sights on you're within dash range of a support, or at least a high value target.
Okay.
And besides that, expect a lot of Lucios if you're going to be running it. I assume that you've probably run into a bunch of it, or not Lucios, I mean Zens.
Yeah.
I've assumed you probably run into a bunch of it if you are. I don't know how much. I don't know if you're actually a Genji main, but
No, I'm not. But
okay. Well, if you're going to be playing Genji more and he's going to be one of your comfort picks, then understand that that's going to happen a lot. And there are ways to play around it. For example, waiting until he uses his thing, or trying to get him instantly with the ult, or alternatively using it just to scare him and using his ult, which happened a couple times. So yeah, just think smart. You got to really play smart when you're playing Genji, because in almost every engagement nowadays, you're always going to be at a disadvantage. But if you play to the strengths of your team, like I said, every team wants to accomplish different things. So if you know what your team wants to accomplish with Genji, since he's such a versatile character, you can actually almost jam your way or shoehorn your way into almost any comp. So just make sure that you alter your playstyle based on that. I was able to see, I think Widow, you played Widow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just Widow is Widow. Make sure you're passive with her. Remember, free Widow shots is a win. So go for the guaranteed Widow shots, not the crazy hyphy jumping off of a bridge while doing a 360 YY ladder jump,
Yeah.
intervention, quick scope, whatever. Make sure you're going for the reliable stuff, because when you're playing Widow, it's a huge fighting disadvantage for your team. So you need to get reliable damage off as Widow.
Yeah.
Whether it's just foregoing damage on the healers to get guaranteed headshots on the tanks because they're easier to hit, or going for body shots on the healers, whatever it needs to be, make sure that you're that reliable anchor for the team. You don't want to just be hit or miss with her. You need to be very reliable when you're picking Pharah, or when you're picking Widow.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I got
Other
it.
than that, I think that's probably everything I got for you guys. Is there anything you got to say or add?
Thank you.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was,
no
Thank you
that
for
was
like preparing all
very-
this. This was really amazing.
that
Can I
was-
like call on you like every other week or something to do a script?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh.
what have you?
Yeah, that's fine by me.
that was
Awesome.
so informative.
No problem. Actually, what I would like to do is I like to think about Overwatch as a sort of like rhythm game. And this is actually something that will help you play the game.
Awesome.
And it's kind of weird to think about, but there's actually a rhythm to the game. Be it in your shot calling, whether like I mentioned earlier, it's what is the plan? How are we going to execute the plan? And then you say Zarya, Anna. It's coordinating that plan with the team, then resetting and doing the same thing over and over again. You kind of get that rhythm, right? And once you get the rhythm, it's very, very easy to continue doing that habit, because it really just kind of flows naturally. Whenever you have a dead moment, my hand naturally presses tab. Like, I actually can't stop it. Even when I'm playing quick play, my hand naturally goes to tab to look and see what the ults are on my team. These are the kind of habits that we should be getting in. These are the ways that we should be thinking about the game, because there should never be a dead moment where there's 12 seconds of absolutely no communication. There should always be something, right? And another thing is, whenever people peek a corner, the number one law, and I'm calling it right now, okay? Everyone remember this, because this is going to help you in your Overwatch career for the rest of your life, okay? However long it is.
Okay.
If they peek, they will peek again. Every single time. That is a law. It's like Newton's third law. If they peek, they will peek again. Every single time. Without a doubt. And it's typically, if you get used to the timing, you could actually like predict people's second peek before they even come out. Because a lot of people, they take the time to press D, and then they take the same amount of time to press A. And it's very, like, if they peak at a certain rhythm, they're going to continue peaking at a certain rhythm. And so if you get used to that kind of stuff, you can actually like capitalize on a lot of people's like really dumb peaks that they think are really safe. So that's one thing to always consider as well. That's just a small tidbit. I've been really exploring with that lately, because that's been like my obsession, because I've been trying to like break up timings in my head. Like whenever I feel like peaking, I just wait a little bit and then I peak, because I feel like people expect the peak immediately after. And whenever you peak at a weird time, they all of a sudden are like, "Oh shit, I wasn't ready for that," or whatever. It's interesting. It's an interesting phenomenon. I thought I'd share it with you guys because it might help you in some way. That's another one of my laws, like the Anna sleep one. So there you go. That's, I guess, everything I have for you. If you guys need help another week or whatever, preferably with first person perspectives.
I actually
would
have
love
one
to.
question.
Sure.
It's not about the scrim. So if anyone else has a question about the scrim, they can ask that first. No? Okay. On Saturday, I'm going to be trying out a tank player for sub.
Uh-huh.
And I was wondering if you would either want to come and watch or would just watch Keith's like first person perspective of him.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. I'm a little bit worried about him because he is actually a bronze, but
Oh wow.
so I'll probably get some other tank players to try out too. Because
Yeah.
Why?
Just remember that like it's kind of weird because now you're like the head honcho, sort of like you and Keith. So I'm kind of getting used to it as well because when I played competitively, I'm so used to being equals to everybody on my team, and whenever you get a little bit of power over them, it's easy to do both things. It's easy to do both extremes. One is take it way too far, and two is let people walk completely over you.
mm-hmm.
You got to have like a good balance of sternness and let them know that they need to respect you, but also you need to be light with them because it's just a game and you're just here to have fun. You don't want people to quit on you because your scrims are too stressful or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I want people to come to the VOD reviews and things like this tonight because they're interested in it and they actually like legitimately want to improve and think that it'll help them get better, rather than being forced to come because if you don't come, you're getting kicked off the team or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a give and take. You need to find a good balance. So with this guy who's bronze, don't be afraid to exercise authority. If he doesn't perform, it's your decision ultimately, right?
I know. I just want to give him a fair chance because I mean he's in bronze, but like, what if he's actually?
That's only
really
fair. Yeah, exactly. That's only fair. I think everyone deserves a fair chance. So.
Plus, he kept telling me, "I'm better than bronze, I promise." So I'm gonna give him.
Ooh.
Everyone in bronze says that.
Yeah.
Oh.
I say that.
Exactly. Oh my god.
Alright guys, let's do a big O deathmatch right now. Ready?
If someone says they're bad, that typically means they're good. That's the law.
I'm
And
bad.
if someone's a weeb, they're usually good too.
And if they're a memer,
Yeah, memers and
Ooh.
weebs, they're super freaking good. For some reason. For some godforsaken reason.
it's because they don't have a really. That's it.
I don't know why. I remember playing Steam games, and every time someone had an anime profile picture, they just creamed me in like CS:GO or whatever. Or like meme ones that are like close-ups of people's faces. They would just always destroy you, and they were like level 4 or whatever.
I'm sorry, that was me.
Brand new accounts and all that. Yeah, so I hope you guys gained something out of that. I'm sad that I wasn't able to go over like everything because I'm sure there's more stuff on
It's-
different maps.
All good. You did so good.
Thank you.
My brain
Well,
is filled.
I think the major things, like shot calling, team coordination in terms of composition, these are things that every team can work on. And every time you send me a VOD, I'm always going to talk about it. So get used to it. Because right now, those are our main issues in A-Team as well. We're having really bad issues with shot calling as well as with composition, team composition. Because, well, first of all, we don't have like a dedicated DPS player right now, which is a big issue. But we have the same issues. Like sometimes our comp isn't there to accomplish the goals that we want it to accomplish. Like when you had Reaper with all of those like siege characters, it doesn't really work together. And sometimes when people are thinking, oh, I need to counter this character, they're not thinking about, oh, if I counter this character, is it all of a sudden going to ruin what we want to do as a team? So there's two considerations that need to happen for every switch. Is it going to work for my team, and is it going to counter their team? Those are the two considerations. Typically, people only consider one. So, yeah, that's what I would do. But yeah, it was fun. I'm glad you guys gave me the opportunity to come out because, you know,